Is this fighter a human or some kind of lab experiment?
He was a part of the Cuban program. No one knows how old he is because he was born in Cuba. He might be 100 years old. Who knows what they did over there in Cuba? Because I think they took some pages out of the Russians, like when they created Alexander Karelin.
Yoel Romero, soldier of God.
The only guy who freaked me out was Yoel. Yoel Romero would look so big at 185. You're like, how is that 185? How is it even possible? He looks like a heavyweight.
Look at the size of this man, a monster among men. Almost 6 feet tall, 210 pounds of pure muscle, or a Cuban science experiment. Or maybe it's God who has blessed this soldier and molded him like this. But let's be real, he is a freak of nature.
They brought in Yoel Romero because he had a fractured orbital. He gets examined, and then the doctor calls the UFC, goes, "Where did you get this guy?" And they go, "What do you mean?" And they go, "He's a fucking specimen." And he goes, "Oh yeah, he's amazing, right?" And they go, No, you don't understand." He goes, "I've been a doctor for 50 years. I've never seen someone like him." He said the tendons in his eyes are 3 times larger than a normal person's. He said the orbital fracture, it's already healing. Whoa. Cuba.
Yeah.
Who knows what kind of fucking wacky experiments they were doing.
Some Russian pills when he was a kid, that's for sure.
Yeah, imagine.
Now tell me, have you ever seen another guy with this freak body at the age of 47? I don't think so. And blessed with an almighty knockout power. This is the story of Yoel Romero, a Cuban Terminator, a living, breathing Marvel character, a man who defies age, limits, and expectations, and makes the whole world wonder, what the hell is this guy even made of? Welcome back to Sports Key to MMA. If you like stories from the world of combat sports, then you are in the right spot. Hit subscribe and keep watching this space for more. A few months ago, Yoel Romero proved once again that age is just a number when he scored a knockout victory over a 6'6" monster at the age of 47.
I was trying.
Romero main evented a stacked first event of the Dirty Boxing Championship in Miami, promoted by Platinum Mike Perry. He took on Ras Hylton, a massive 6'6" heavyweight boxer, and no prizes for guessing, Yoel knocked out Ras with a 2-punch combination that included a beautiful hook. Beyond your 40s, most athletes are already into retirement. That's the age when your speed goes down, your chin fades, the reflexes start dying off. But this Cuban specimen is successfully stepping into a new combat sport and is still breaking chins and knocking his opponents out. But let's be real, this ain't new. Throughout his fighting career, the Cuban has done things that have raised questions amongst the fighters and the fans. Romero's physique has been the stuff of legend for years, but even at 47 years old, the former UFC star continues to shock fans with his unreal conditioning. For starters, this guy trained and competed in wrestling all his life and became one of the best.
Flying knee, he knocked him out. That's it. This fight's over.
Remember, Yoel Romero is a freak and so amazing because he came to MMA at what, 35?
Yeah.
He made his UFC debut at 35 and still attained the status as one of the most formidable fighters to ever grace the octagon. In fact, from age 35 to 43, Romero fought in the deepest shark tank of the middleweight division. He took on legends like Chris Weidman, Robert Whittaker, Paulo Costa, Israel Adesanya. These are not the guys you cruise past unscathed, but Yoel is Yoel. If you don't believe us, ask Chris Weidman about that flying knee. Ask Luke Rockhold about that left hook. Even the ones who managed to beat him were breathing a sigh of relief that they were just done with him. Former UFC middleweight champ Robert Whittaker went toe-to-toe with him for 10 rounds, and here's what he had to say.
Because when I was punching and kicking him, he felt like metal, like a dude made out of concrete.
During an episode of the Joe Rogan Experience, host Rogan recounted a story where UFC officials sent Romero to an optometrist following a fractured orbital after his fight against Robert Whittaker at UFC 225. According to Rogan, his physical structure was apparently so extraordinary that the doctor couldn't even compare it to anyone else he'd examined. The doctor reportedly called the UFC in shock, saying, "I've never seen a human being like this. This is the most unusual human being I've ever seen in my 40 years of practicing medicine." Of course, this could just be a really tall tale, not something strange for the UFC commentator. Before I go further, watch this.
Is he an alien? That depends on your definition of alien. What I will say on the matter is the hospital in which Yoel was born has lost the evidence that he was ever born there. There is a lab in Cuba which Yoel refers to as Gao, which is home in English. That's all I'll say on the matter. The birth certificate for Yoel Romero has that section blacked out.
Well, this was a well-scripted spoof of Yoel's management to promote him, but it leads into the conspiracy of the Cuban experiment in a funny way. Well, now let's address the elephant in the cage. Yoel Romero is built differently, literally, physically, freakishly. When you see Romero take his shirt off, it's like someone took a Marvel comic character out and made it real. His shoulders are like cannonballs, and legs look like they could deadlift for days. But can you take the fact that he doesn't lift weights? Or at least, that's what he claims, just bodyweight training, explosive sprints, Olympic-style drills. We all wonder, how can he grow like that? Was this guy grown in a lab? And honestly, no one can blame us, because the blame goes on the Cubans, who don't have the necessary paperwork to prove this outright. From the moment Romero stepped into MMA, people whispered things like, "He's a Cuban experiment, genetically engineered, too old to move like that, must be something else." But here's the truth. Yoel Romero isn't a science experiment, obviously. He's the result of an elite athlete with a brutally disciplined routine, and then we added up with an elite genetic framework. Now onto a serious one. Romero once had surgery to fix his broken neck. If you looked closely, you'd see a scar on his neck. Now, it would have been hard for a normal human to do just basic movements after this kind of injury. But Romero kept on fighting at the highest level in the UFC. Some experts believe that the injury might resurface in a fight and render him paralyzed or worse. But Romero seems unbothered. I mean, he's notoriously known for taking clean head kicks and still standing on his 2 feet. Paulo Costa is seen as one of the big hitters at middleweight, and he dished out some of the most brutal head kicks that landed perfectly on the Cuban. But Yoel seemed unfazed and kept moving forward. Although Yoel lost a split decision that day, but his antics led to him being revered as a demigod in MMA folklore. Now this guy can wrestle and knock you out. Basically this is his bread and butter, but he showed his dance skills off at a UFC face-off. Remember the time Romero was set to challenge Izzy for the 185-pound belt? Everybody thought Adesanya was the one with all the charm, but Romero beat him in a dance-off. Do you believe that guy backflipping and splitting while wearing jeans was a 43-year-old fighter? And that too after a lifetime of world-class competitions. Even Dana was like, "What just happened, Min?" A product of decades of training, Olympic pedigree, elite mentality, and yeah, maybe a little divine power. So that's Yoel Romero for you, ladies and gentlemen. Yoel, Soldier of God Romero, an elite fighter, a genetic freak, and a once-in-a-generation fighter. So what do you guys think about Yoel Romero? Is he actually some kind of an experiment, a machine, or just a freak athlete? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Sports Key to MMA for more fun stories.